see it. Now, we've talked a lot about potholes on the program for the last couple of years. Potholes in town, potholes on highways, potholes that have damaged cars, sometimes multiple cars, over a very short period of time. There's been a couple on the Western Highway, particularly around Trawalla and Beaufort, that have managed to do that. And I think also between Gordon and Ballan, there was a stretch there that was damaging cars for a while. Well, now, an app that allows residents to quickly report local issues to councils is seeing increasing growth in reports of potholes. So if you follow the numbers, it seems to indicate that there's an 8% increase statewide in the number of potholes on Victorian roads. That's compared to in 2025 compared to the previous year. Our part of the state is also one of the areas that's doing much of the reporting. It's all via the Snap Send Solve app. Danny Gorog is the CEO of Snap Send Solve and is our guest this morning. Danny Gorog, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm okay. Is this an increase in potholes or is it an increase in reporting?
It's a good question. I think it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, sort of 9% rise is actually a little bit lower than our growth across all reports, when we look at the country, but still concerning in regions. And when we break it down in regions, there are some regions that have had declines. For example, southeast Melbourne, I'm just looking at the numbers, inner south Melbourne, but Ballarat, the Ballarat region, as you say, has reporting volume has grown about 6%. Last year, there were about 737 reports. That compares to a total across the state of 12,500. So it's definitely still an issue. And I just want to clarify, I mean, Snap Send Solve, we send a lot of reports to councils, but we also allow people to send reports to other authorities. So in this case, it would be Department of Transport and Vic Roads.
Yep.
But there's a whole lot of other things. And when we actually dive into the data, and most of the issues, around half the issues in the Ballarat region, are for the Department of Transport managed roads, and they're typically roads that are carrying big trucks, freights, commuters, regional traffic. And the dominant, not many people talk about potholes. We have different categories of reports, but it's all about damaged road surfaces. And so it's the roads are breaking up, roads are sinking, roads are becoming unsafe. And as you say, they're causing damage to cars. So that's the pattern we're seeing. And it's a pretty consistent pattern. And I assume we'll see similar sort of growth this year as well.
The other figures that stand out to me, Danny, is because our part of our south and western part of the listening area, because we've got a fair chunk of Western Victoria, it stretches into that Warrnambool southwest area rather. Mm-hmm. While Ballarat had a 6% increase, Warrnambool southwest, according to the numbers I've seen in the Herald Sun, a 178.1% increase.
Yeah. And when we talk percentages, that's correct. But it's off a relatively low reporting base. It's still, I think, around 200. It's sort of 200 reports versus about 73 the year before. So it's still a relatively small number, but it's about the same as other regions like Hume, Northwest, Bendigo, etc.
Okay.
But, and it's grown strongly. Now that could be a symptom of sort of people finding out about Snap Send Solve in the area and they're moving, instead of reporting in other ways, they're using Snap Send Solve to make those reports.
Okay. I did straight away wonder where the correlation is between willingness to report if we're just a bit crankier at the moment and willing to complain more, or if it's that convenience factor of something that's a phone on the app, and whether it actually reflects what's going on the road, because our governments are saying we're fixing it, we're throwing money here, we're throwing money there. The experience of a lot of us is, well, it's not going very far.
Yeah, well, I think there's a little bit of everything. I mean, one of the reasons that we built Snap Send Solve is because there is a lot of friction in getting things reported, things that people see around the community. And one of the things that we worked out is that if we make that really easy for people, then more reporting will happen. It doesn't mean there are more problems. It means there's more reporting. And I think that has played out in terms of the growth of the app and the popularity of the app. And one of the things actually we introduced last year is a duplicate mechanism. So we have now a lot of people in the community using Snap Send Solve reporting things. And what we don't want is the same report going to the same authority more than once. So we have a duplicate feature that will automatically say, hey, we think this report's been surfaced already and sent to the solver. Do you want to report it, or do you just want to know that it's been done? And most people are very happy with that. And I think we've had tens of thousands of those duplicate reports which haven't gone to the council or haven't gone to the road authority because they've already in there once. So we're working hard on doing that. But I think it's really important for authorities to make it easy for people to let them know about problems. And Snaps and Solve is one of the tools that they're using to do that.
Okay, do you know from use of your app if it actually results in changed behaviour on the part of the authorities? Do they get to things faster? Because some people have resorted to other methods. You may know what I'm talking about, Danny, where they get the road paint and draw a picture around the pothole. That seems to work pretty quick. Does sending it through your app also work?
Let me give you a really recent example. So we just launched a partnership with the City of Melbourne. And they're using Snaps and Solve, and what they've done is they've automated the whole graffiti reporting process. So when someone does a snap in the City of Melbourne, it goes all the way through to the contractors. They've told us two stats which are incredible. The time from when a report gets made to when it gets closed has more than halved. So they've brought that down by more than half. And the CSAT, the customer satisfaction, has increased from 75 to 88%. So if councils take this seriously, and Ballarat are a fantastic council just in terms of their responsiveness, there is a significant improvement in the close rates and the satisfaction of the community.
Okay. So that end of it depends on the response of the person the report's being sent to.
Yeah.
And as you said, local council here, pretty good.
Yeah, really good. One other thing I'll talk to you about is that we talk about high quality reports. And if you think about all the channels that these organisations can get reports, so they can have phone calls, they can have emails, they can have websites, they can have Snaps and Solve, we have very high photo attach rates. And what we found is that having a photo makes it much easier for the authority to understand the problem and to understand how to fix the problem. And so by getting the reports from Snaps and Solve, they have geolocations and they have photos, so it actually makes them very easy. It's easy to triage and much easier to fix. So that's the other insight we've had.
Okay. Before I let you go, we've been talking mostly roads and potholes. Have you seen an overall increase in other areas as well? Or and I just would like to try and offset the road reporting if there's also an increase in graffiti reporting, to try and work out if it's just a greater willingness of people to say, hey, I'm going to let people know I want it fixed.
Yeah, overall last year we got about 1.8 million reports, which I think was up about 15%, three or 400,000. So there's sort of a little bit of both happening, and I don't have the stats on a category basis, but what we're seeing is generally an increase in reports across most of the top categories, and the top categories are things like dump rubbish. That continues to be a real burden for the communities. Parking and illegal parking and abandoned vehicles continues to be a problem, and as you say, graffiti and vandalism continues to be a problem. And in terms of graffiti and vandalism, unfortunately, there's been a rise in offensive graffiti, which I have to say councils do a very, very good job of getting rid of quickly.
Danny, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, Steve.
That is Danny Gorog, CEO of Snaps and Solve, and it's been in place locally for a little while now since Ballarat City Council adopted it. But it's not just, as Danny explained, about councils. You can report traffic stuff to Vic Roads, and there's other authorities, transport operations and those sorts of things. So interesting. 8% increase statewide in the number of potholes reported. Overall, there's an increase, 1.8 million reports, Danny was just saying then, generally in all of those problem areas. So it seems we are more willing to report, probably because it's easy, I would say. I wouldn't necessarily argue that we just like to whinge more, although, there are some. But I think just the ease of doing it, and then of course it's going to depend on the response of whoever the authority is that you're sending the complaint through to, or the report to, as to how quickly and how well they respond to the reports.